What's up guys? It's Joe here, aka History Hobbit, and today I'm going to be checking out the new trailer for Oppenheimer. So we're going to watch it all the way through and then we'll talk about it after. So without any further ado, let's get right into it.
This is a national emergency. Detonator charged. We're in a race against the Nazis. And I know what it means. If the Nazis have a bomb.
I have a 12-month head start.
18.
How could you possibly know that?
We've got one hope. All America's industrial might and scientific innovation connected here. A secret laboratory. Keep everyone there until it's done.
Let's go recruit some scientists.
Build a town, build it fast. If we don't let scientists bring their families, we'll never get the best.
Why would we go to the middle of nowhere for who knows how long?
Why? Why? How about because this is the most important thing that ever happened in the history of the world?
You're the great improviser, but this you can't do in your head.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
What do you want from theory alone?
Zero would be nice.
This is a matter of life or death. I can perform this miracle.
World War II would be over. Our boys would come out.
That's happening, isn't it?
The world will remember this day. Our work here will ensure a peace mankind has never seen. Until somebody builds a bigger one.
You are the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves. And the world is not prepared.
Truman needs to know what's next. What's next?
So there we have it. It looks like it's going to be a really intense movie. It's by Christopher Nolan, so you know this is a guy that doesn't miss. I mean, he has past history of all kinds of great films. I mean, you're looking at Dunkirk, which is another World War II historical drama, if you want to call it that. The Dark Knight as well. And what's also really exciting about this movie is that Hans Zimmer is going to be doing the soundtrack for it. And this is the guy who did the music for Interstellar. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. Gladiator, you've probably seen that. Just two beautiful original scores, and he's going to be combining efforts with Nolan on this one, and I think they're going to create something really special. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how they take on this movie, because obviously Hollywood, there's a pattern of maybe overdoing historical stories, like adding a lot of things into the story that didn't actually happen, changing characters, changing the order of events, just doing anything to make things more dramatic and more engaging. So we'll have to wait and see the full movie to see what they do with the storyline and how historically accurate it actually is. You have to remember, this isn't really a film that needs anything added onto it. If you just look at the context of when this was happening and why it was happening, this was a race against evil for presumably the fate of the entire world. And it was something that the Nazis were not far behind on as far as developing atomic weapons. There's different estimates, but maybe 12 months behind where the United States was with the Manhattan Project. And if guys like Robert Oppenheimer hadn't actually developed the atomic bomb when they did, and the Nazis had gotten there first, it would have been a crazily different world. There's not really any telling exactly what would have happened, but my guess is Hitler, if he'd gotten the bomb first, he would have dropped one on the Soviet Union and probably the UK too, like just right off the bat. Could have dropped one on those places in order to kind of beat them into submission. Probably the US too, although the biggest difficulty that I can see from that standpoint would have just been finding a plane, like a bomber, that would have had the range to take it from Europe to the US and then drop it. But he probably would have found a way to do it. It's lucky that because of the Manhattan Project, that wasn't really a reality that the world had to face. But anyway, all that to say that hype surrounding the time when this was happening and just the stress involved was very real. And it looks like the movie is going to be reflecting some of that. Another thing that I thought was interesting towards the end of the trailer, it looks like the movie is going to deal with kind of the personal side of Oppenheimer himself, like not just his work, but actually some of his struggles personally. He was actually a guy who struggled a lot with mental health. He also carried around a big dark weight because of what he had created. And it's understandable too, right? Because this is an invention. Sure, it ended World War II, and there's different arguments on that side as if the US should have dropped it on Japan or if they should have just fought the war out in a more traditional sense. But regardless, was an invention at the time that led to tons of death and destruction. So you can understand the inventor of it carrying around some of that weight. This is an invention that really launched the world into a new era. Ever since it was invented, there's always been that threat. And luckily, it's only been dropped, well, 2 times, at least in an actual combat setting. I know there have been different tests throughout the years, but there is always that threat. And it actually amazes me. I was thinking about this the other day, just how long we've gone without a nuclear weapon being used in combat. And I think the reason is it's always a dual threat situation, right? So if Russia launches a nuclear missile towards the United States, they know that the United States is instantly going to respond and we're both going to be destroyed, right? So I think that's really the only thing keeping the world together right now. Any world leader knows that if they are to launch a missile, then they're pretty much dooming themselves at the same time. But taking it back to World War II history, this certainly was one of those pivotal moments in World War II that really changed the course of the war. And there were a number of those throughout the war. It really started with, I think probably the biggest first one was the Battle of Britain, right? Just that Hitler thought he was going to be able to just take out the British Air Force, launch an attack onto the mainland UK and take over England fairly easily, but he wasn't able to do that. England fought him for the rest of the war, and ultimately that was, they were one of the contributors that brought him down. The Soviet Union campaign as well. I mean, Hitler had plenty of early success in that campaign. Ultimately, once he got to Stalingrad, once he got to Moscow, he just couldn't sustain that pressure. The Red Army turned the tide and pushed him all the way back to Berlin, and that ended things. There's really no telling how long the war would have gone on had it not been for the invention of the atomic bomb. So it was certainly something, it shortened the war, it really changed the course of what the war could have looked like, and plenty of moral arguments either way as to what should have been done, but it did certainly end the war a lot earlier. Anyway, on the World War II side of things, I actually did another video, a hypothetical scenario, considering the idea of Hitler actually winning World War II. So if you want to check that out, if that sounds interesting to you, you can watch it right here. And if you like my videos, please subscribe right here. That way you're not going to miss any of my new content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.